What's going on? This is your boy Gang Salt Talk with AJ, and I'm back with another video. And this is the second episode of Stepback with AJ, where I'm talking about my experiences with gang stalking over the years. And in this one, we're gonna get into 2015 through the end of 2016. So if you're into thought-provoking content like this, like, comment, subscribe, turn on your post notifications. And after you check out this episode, check out episode 1 of Step Back with AJ, where I got into the origin of, me being knowledge, me starting to feel weird about gang stalking, and the beginning from 2012, and me confirming that I'm being gang stalked in 2014. So if you want to, get some, fill in on how this started and what I was dealing with and what I was experiencing, go back to that story, go back to that video before this one, and check it out and come back, or watch it after. So we're gonna start in the beginning of 2015. So at this point, I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the time, just settling in. So I got my apartment in June of 2014. So at this point, I'm working at the job, the restaurant, 6-7 months in, and like I said, at that point, I'm dealing with a lot of workplace harassment. Girl's pregnant at the time. So at that point, I wasn't really making much money, but I needed the job, to be able to maintain, pay my bills and whatnot. My rent at that point, because back then to live there, I was only paying $350 a month for the 1-bedroom apartment. It was only 400 square feet because it was just us two, and she was expecting at the time. So I kind of was, working my butt off to make sure, my son had everything he needed, when he gets here. Cause we were kind of in the early stages of her pregnancy at the time. So I'm just grinding every day, just putting my head down, working, because at this point I kind of found a way to kind of tune it out somewhat. But was I giving a reaction to some people? Yes, but I wasn't really like I was kind of leaving the confusion state because I knew what I was dealing with. So I'm just going to work, I'm dealing with employees, kind of trying to get under my skin, and at this point I'm a manager, so I'm making, like I said, $9.25 an hour, and I was underpaid doing that. And for some reason, a lot of people knew how much I was making. They knew, all this information about me, and it was kind of weird because I'm like, how do they know this stuff? So apparently the managers that were getting paid more than me, and understand that this was predominantly Hispanic and Indian native establishment. So I'm the only black person that work here. So, excuse me, having to deal with that alone was a lot. And so a lot of racism, 100%. And then on top of gang stalking, it was just, it was brutal. But so they end up finding out, through looking up personal information in the computer, which is illegal, giving out personal information on me, so that knowing what I'm making and what's going on with me and stuff like that on that front. So on the job, I was dealing with a lot of, slander, harassment from customers. Like if I'm working the drive-through, or, when I show up to work, it gets very busy. So they'll get super busy. I will get swarmed with customers, constantly ordering, bringing their orders back, saying they're wrong, even though we made them right, and they're the drive-through people were in on it. So they'll just do that to kind of get a reaction, to kind of get me irritated. I'll either have people come in late or call in, or they'll kind of purposely mess up, the registers. Just a bunch of little things, they'll try to give out free food to their families, and I was having to deal with shortage counts on the food. Just a lot of little things, man, that just, they were trying to sabotage my job, and just to make a long story short. And dealing with that for about a year. And up till the summertime 2015, I ended up leaving that job, and I just got tired and sick of it. You know what I'm saying? I got sick of it, so they got what they wanted in that moment. Went to work at another restaurant. So there, like it always starts, it started off okay, and then much of the same. Was a manager at this place. Um, I ended up because I didn't have steady transportation at the time, so I had a bike. So I ended up buying a bike from the Walmart that was behind the restaurant. So I would get up, and I was working early morning shift, like 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I would leave my house, go ride my bike to work, and then I noticed that it would always be somebody watching in the cut. So my bike, I will park it behind the trash can. So it's like a wooden fence, and then the trash can, then it's like a space behind it. So I would sometimes tie it up, and then one time my lock, I didn't bring it. So that one time I didn't bring it, and everything seemed good. Then when I get off work, my bike's gone. So just dealing with that, having to walk home that day, which was probably about 6-7 miles. So that sucked. And mind you, I'm not making much money at this time because minimum wage was kind of low back then. And so I didn't have money to catch the bus or do anything like that. So it's pretty much done for, to be honest with you. But man, then my son was being born, so I'm buying diapers, I'm buying everything, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and after my girl at the time, obviously she's not working because she's pregnant, so I'm holding it down as a man's supposed to. So dealing with all that, and just my kid comes later on that year, September. So he's born, and I noticed that I had a transformation when he was born. Once he got here, the best moment of my life, and one moment that I'll never, it's a moment that I'll never forget, because I ended up having the opportunity to, he needed to stay warm. He was cold. I remember, I don't have the picture on me, but I have the picture somewhere at home. But I had him held in my shirt, to keep him warm, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. And we just had a bond ever since. So we were really close. But yeah, that was the highlight, of my year. So, and it kind of motivated me to kind of even further to just ignore these people, because I got somebody that looks up to me, that needs me, and that's counting on me to provide for him. So I locked in, and even more, and I just started to just ignore him completely, and end up staying at this job. Then I would transfer to a different location, same company, different location, to be closer to the house, because it was better, transportation wise, for me not having the car. So I get to this location, much of the same, workplace mob and harassment. Living in New Mexico was a culture shock for me. And this is when we're going to get into 2016, about January 2016. Now, my lease is up at my apartment. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm ready to move, talking to her. And I'm like, man, this is a culture shock. I don't want to deal with it here anymore. So packed the family up. We moved to Houston, Texas. Now I got to Houston, Texas. And this is going to be very brief because I wasn't there that long. So I got to Houston, Texas, and then we find out she's pregnant again. So got to Houston, Texas, and while we were there, she found out she was pregnant. Now, Houston, I couldn't really get it going, and I had a large amount of events that happened there. Ended up getting on the job. It paid even less than Texas at the time. We're staying in an extended stay motel, which was supposed to be temporary till we got an apartment. That didn't work out. We just weren't making enough money. So we had to leave that extended stay. I remember one time I was going to get my check, and I lost my wallet in Walmart, never to be found. So once I realized I lost my wallet, I went back in the store immediately after. No one claimed they saw my wallet. Some without ID, social. I lost everything in that moment, and I'm in a whole nother state and city with nothing, and I'm gonna get to how that affected me later on. So and as far as working the job, I did another fast food job out there, and dealt with a lot of the same workplace mobbing and harassment, fired the drive-through, my coworkers, just a lot of the same, you know, a lot of me walking around, and I'm trying to cross the street and they're speeding, trying to damn near hit me on purpose. Dealt with a lot of that. It was just Houston was a disaster for me at the time. I like Houston, you know what I'm saying? Houston's a vibe and stuff like that, but Houston was horrible. So, excuse me. So, we stayed in Houston for 3 months because it got to the point where I didn't have an ID, like I told you earlier. So when I was going to go stay at this extended stay, I was trying to extend the room. They didn't let me because I didn't have an ID. So we were forced to leave that hotel. So we were technically homeless with a newborn under 6 months old at the time. Well, about 6 months old. Well, no, he was 8 months old at the time. So I made the conscious decision, was like, you know what? We're going to go to Los Angeles. Now, her family's from Los Angeles, so, and that's why I met her. So we were staying in this place called, it was in MacArthur Park. What was it called? It's not there anymore, but it's like a boarding house, you know, to where it's two rooms. You rent out a room, and then the two rooms next to each other share a bathroom. So we got in there, and I got a job out there in LA, and much of the same as far as the work stuff. Dealing with a lot of workplace mob and harassment. It's getting like when I show up to work, it'll get super busy. So the plan with that was to try to stress me out, to try to get me to quit. So work me to death, work the dog out of me so I can quit. And it was much of that every single day, and I'll keep showing up because I knew that I had to provide for my soon to be daughter coming, and then my son that's here. So and her. So doing that, making it happen, and then living in a boarding house, I dealt with a lot of my neighbors doing weird stuff. There was a lot of surveillance going on, just a lot of secret weird stuff going on, to where I seen somebody sleeping outside my door, to the right of my door on the ground. It sounded like they were sitting there all night, and they were just kind of doing surveillance on what was going on in there. The neighbor next to me that I shared the bathroom with, she was nasty. She would poop on the floor, and every time I would complain about it, she'll do it again. And she was just a nasty lady, very nasty lady. And mind you, I got a baby. You know, I got about a year old baby at the time. So dealing with that, and I'm just like, bro, what is going on, bro? Like, what is happening here? What is going on here? And this is about what is this at the time? It's about August 2016. So we're about 2 months from my daughter being born. So I'm sitting here, I'm just going to work, doing my thing. A lot of the people, what they would do is me not having a car, it's kind of easier to get to you. It's not hard to get to you whether you have a car or not. I mean, it's not hard whether you have a car or not, but it's a lot easier when you're on feet, because if you're taking public transportation and there are people that's on there with you, they can follow you better because they can blend in better, on public transportation. So, in LA, I'm taking the train, I'm taking the bus, the city bus, and I dealt with a lot of people just like staring at me, trying to make me feel uncomfortable, a lot of directed conversation. And I took a second job out there working at another restaurant. I dealt with like them hiring me and not giving me no hours. So it was to the point that they were only working me 6 hours a week at my second job. I'll work a 3-hour shift, like 4 to 7 one day and then 4 to 7 another day. And I just end up quitting because I'm just like, what was the point of hiring me if you're just going to give me 3 hours here, 3 hours there? It was a waste of my time. So my daughter was born a couple months later, October 2016. And then at that point, I was dealing with bed bugs in the room. And then I noticed that in my daughter's bassinet, there were bed bugs in there, with my newborn daughter. So I was like, you know what? Oh, we gotta get out of here. So at that moment, I threw everything away that we owned. We washed all the clothes, you know what I'm saying, that we could, but all the bassinet, all that stuff, we threw it away. Bought a stroller. Ended up getting a train back to New Mexico because we couldn't really afford to live in LA. And so this was October 2016, shortly after, so I'll say October 17th, 2016. So this was literally like 10 to 12 days after she was born. Literally, we left. We took the train back. I had set up with the old guy I was renting from. His name was Brian. Cool guy. He actually was a cool guy. So I ended up setting up an apartment with him. I was like, okay, well, I got a job set up. You know, I have your money to move in and stuff like that. And boom, I just didn't pay the room, the rent at the room. I just moved out and took the money, got my family back to Albuquerque at the time. And then we end up, going back there, getting a place. So this is about the middle of October. So I come back. Go back to the same job that I was working at, not the one that when I left, but the one prior to where I was a manager. I went back there. Everything seemed cool initially until they hired this guy named Jose and his girlfriend. Now, this dude was the bane of my fucking existence. I ain't gonna lie to you. That dude was fucking a pain in the ass. So we're getting into me working with him. So me working with him, and this is gonna end off the year and stuff like that. So me working with him, and his girl, they would call out a lot. They were on drugs. We got robbed twice, which I knew was staged. They were staging robberies on my shift. So coincidentally, when I was on shift, we would get robbed. And this happened twice. 2 weeks in a row. And the reason why I knew it was staged is because the Jose guy, he like calmly, we went out the back. We were in the back at the time, right? And this is how I knew it was staged, because the girls that were there, me and him went out in the back. I was taking out trash and he was smoking or whatever, cigarette or whatever he was doing. And then for some reason, mysteriously, we get robbed. Mysteriously. So I'm thinking to myself, like, he knew about this. Like, he knew this was going to happen because the timing was just auspicious. So this individual that robbed was definitely plotting or waiting for, all right, sorry, I got a catering order. But yeah, all of a sudden, I knew something was up with this robbery situation, because 2 times in a row, 2 weeks, it was the same group of people that was on the shift. Me, Jose, the other manager, and the girl, the native girl that was in the drive-thru. Same 4 people. The only person that drove suspicion was Jose, and this guy was very sketchy. So I knew that these robberies were staged to kind of intimidate me to quit. So I knew from the moment she hired this guy, he was just there to cause problems and get me to quit. You know what I'm saying? And that was his way of doing it, you know what I'm saying, to get me to quit. So 2 robberies in a row, or in back-to-back weeks, and I didn't quit because I knew, like, you know what? I have 2 children now. I'm not going to let this stop me, you know what I'm saying? But I'm also not going to let somebody, you know what I'm saying, put a gun to me, and I'm not going to anyways. I'm going to just shh. Anyways, I'm not going to let somebody, do that and then think, you know what I'm saying, the energy is not going to be returned. I'll just say that. And nah, man, I just went and went on about my life, man. And they were looking at me kind of weird because they really thought that was gonna work. So it was just many attempts after attempts after attempts, doing little petty stuff, doing childish stuff to kind of get me to quit, and it didn't work. So much for that, and so much for that. Because at this point, I'm about 4 or 5 years. I'm heading into year 5 of being targeted, that I know of, being gang stalked. So I know the program. I've done my research. I know what they're trying to do. So I'm very educated and versed on what I'm dealing with. So a lot of the things that they were trying to do to me didn't work, And at this point, it's the beginning of 2017. And I'm going to leave off right here because I'm going to leave 2017 for part 3 and to the end of 2018, going into 2019 for part 3. So I hope you enjoyed that. In this stretch, it was a lot of workplace mobbing and harassment, moving, constantly because for culture shock reasons, and then me like thinking that maybe I move, that things will get better. But meanwhile, everything just followed me. So like I said, I'm in the early stages of, dealing with this. So I'm not really like super, like I'm educating myself, but I'm not super like I am now, as far as like, this stuff travels with you. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's been tough it was tough up to that point, but, I had 2 bundles of joy come into my life at that point. And, they kind of gave me purpose. They gave me my reason why, to keep going and to keep pushing and persevering. I don't know where I would be today if they didn't come into my life, because I really don't, if they weren't born. But they gave me purpose to keep going and keep pushing every day. And before I get out of here, I just want to like tell people, what's your why? Leave it in the comment section. What's your why? You should have a desire to live. You deserve to live a normal life and prosperous life, just like everybody else. Don't let these people drive you out of somewhere, especially if you need it. Don't let people drive you out of there. You know what I'm saying? If they're not interested if the only way you can get taken away from your job is if you leave, or if you leave, or you do something to get fired. Other than that, if you're just busting your ass, you're going to work and coming home, man, they can't do nothing about that. But don't be intimidated by people or things that they do. Keep pushing, keep grinding every day, and keep your head up, man, and stay prayed up. So that's part 2 of me being targeted, 2015 through the end of 2016. This is your boy Gang Stalk Talk with AJ. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on your post notifications, and I appreciate y'all tuning in. Y'all stay blessed, y'all stay safe out there, and I'm going, and I'll see you in part 3. Peace.